What are you doing? I'll tell you what you're doing. You're listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Either you are, or I'll be skipping rope with your entrails. Ta-ta.
This podcast is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Robots Radio. Games. Lore. Stories. Community. Just press play. Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, the podcast where we explore the amazing universe of the Elder Scrolls. Adventurers, welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. I'm here with my good buddy. Well, I guess I should face this way. My good buddy, the Lotus of the Doom. What's up, dude? How's it going, man?
It's going well. And actually, we'll probably get into it at like the mid-break thing, but it's going very well just because of everybody posting their end-of-year Spotify Wrapped things, which has been quite overwhelming.
Yeah, lots of cool stuff. Go check out everyone's Twitter accounts and mine too. I posted a whole bunch of images and screenshots about like, thank you to all of our listeners, and this is what percentage of people share. Like, we're in the top 5% of most shared podcasts on the internet. Did you know that? Or at least on Spotify. Like, there's a bunch of cool stats.
That's only one platform.
Yeah. It's there's some crazy stuff out there. So go look up the stuff that I posted on the Twitter account, on the Robots Radio Twitter account, if you want to see any of that stuff. It's pretty cool. But thank you to all of our listeners. Yeah. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome, chat. Thanks for being here. Lemonian in chat says, I thought you added that stuff in post, talking about the intro sounds and stuff. No, man, it's all part of the live show. It's all together, and it makes it much more efficient. I have less editing to do later on. So welcome, everybody. We are getting back to conversations about Morrowind and the Dunmer. And this week, we teased it 2 weeks ago. We decided, you know what, we're only going to go into the houses a little bit as they occur in the history and the story of how things progressed in the society. But we wanted to leave some of the more specific details about the nature of each of the houses, kind of the personalities of them for this episode that we're going to do. So we're going to go through all the great houses, the current ones as of the state of the most recent games, but then also the houses that aren't around anymore. Some of the ones that used to be great houses, some of the ones that are minor houses that, or historically were part of this, I don't know what to call it. It's not a pantheon. Pantheon crossed my mind, but that's not the right word.
It's
Senate.
Not but I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, something like that, but it doesn't matter what we call it. But that's what we're talking about today. So I hope you guys are interested in this. And one thing that I think is particularly worth noting, and I didn't bring this up to Lotus ahead of time, but Lotus, you've heard about the rumors of where people think Elder Scrolls Online is going next year, right?
I love the idea of us going to the Morrowind Mitten, as I call it.
The mitten,
because it looks like a little mitten on the map, but I would love it because then we could see Necrom and all this other stuff. Boots, you're not helping.
Yeah, so more Telvanni.
He's also very excited about this potentially.
Boost is our third Boots is our third host. I called him Boost. Boost sounds like the name of like a superhero dog in like a Disney show. I am Boost. I'm here to help. All right. Well, enough of that silliness. Let's get on with the show. So we're going to go through each of the different major houses, and mostly we're just focusing on the personality and who they are in relationship to each other and how they kind of work together. Now, the first thing that I want you to keep in mind as we're talking about the houses of Morrowind is that they are part of the political structure, but they aren't like current politics. Like if in the United States, for example, we've got two major political groups. You've got the Republicans and the Democrats. And if you decided to be one of those, you could. And if at any point you wanted to switch and be the other, you could. It's totally up to you making that decision. This isn't like that at all. You are born into a house, and if your house gets dissolved, you might be welcome into another house. But that's one of the rare occasions where you can actually change houses. For the most part, These are more like being born into like a mafia.
Yeah, I was about to say it's sort of like a mafia family dynamic, except they are the governing bodies.
Right. So if you are House Redoran or House Telvanni or whoever, you are until death. These are your people. This is the group that you are siding with, and you might decide to work with some of the other houses, or you might agree on some things, but you probably disagree on a lot of other stuff as well. And at no point will you ever be asked to switch or welcome into another house if you got kicked out of yours for just being a terrible person. Like, that would be very rare. So that's kind of where this starts.
Well, also, a lot of the houses have interesting moral dynamics, not even just amongst each other, which varies quite a bit, but even in and amongst the houses themselves can get a little interesting at points and sort of kind of cutthroat in a lot of cases.
Yeah. So there's some cool stuff going on here. So let's start with House Redoran. I mentioned them a second ago. There are 5 remaining great houses, and House Redoran, and we're pulling a lot of this information because it's all been kind of boiled down into the UESP wiki. And the section on House Redoran, there's a bunch of stuff here historically about who they were and where they were. We talked about a little bit of that stuff on the last episode, but I want to focus more on their personality. In the final paragraph in that section, it says, the main focus of House Redoran is maintaining the traditions of the settled Dunmer, and more specifically, the way of the warrior. So when you think Redoran, think way of the warrior. As a result, House Redoran has long served as Morrowind's de facto military. Members of House Redoran often believe themselves to be naturally superior to other great houses.
Amazing. There's not only do Mer like to pretend they're superior amongst other races, they also need to have a superiority test amongst themselves.
Yes. So par for the course, I guess.
Yeah, it's all par for the course.
So due to the house's emphasis on tradition and piety, the Tribunal Temple was a natural ally. We mentioned a little bit of this on the last episode as well. With the majority of Vivek's buoyant armigers hailing from the house, House Redoran maintained strained relationships with the Ashlander tribes of Vardenfell, with the Morgtong, House Hlalu, and House Telvanni. They held respect for House Indoril and were willing to fight alongside House Dress. So this recaps a few of those connections between the different houses and some of the places where they either sided together or whatever. During the Third Empire's reign over Morrowind, the Redoran also held mutual respect for the Fighters Guild, which makes sense because they're very warrior focused.
I was going to say it's mutual interest / respect.
Right. And the Imperial Legion. Remember, they were the ones that got along better with the Legion initially compared to some of the other houses.
Yep.
They did not hold other imperial institutions such as the Mages Guild, the Thieves Guild, and the Imperial Cult in such high esteem. So they still had their differences. Like the other great houses, House Redoran loathed the cultists of the 6th house and the vampires of Varden. We're going to talk about the 6th house. We'll get there. And the vampires of Vardenfell, and disapproved of the Komona Tong's illegal activities. So, do you remember much about the Komona Tong? About Komona Tong? The Komona Tong?
They're really not. I mean,
that works.
I know their existence it is and stuff like that, but they've never really been at the forefront of anything that I specifically remember, other than they might have had more of an influence in Elder Scrolls 3 than I remember. But also, I played that game in 2002.
yeah. There's a section in the UESP. We're not going to sidetrack into this too much, but
yeah, they're not really necessarily like this discussion topic, but we could always do something on the Komona Tong at another point.
Right. A brief synopsis from Vorar Vendu, who says the Komona Tong are slavers, murderers, extortionists, everything a vile crime syndicate can be. They don't like outlanders, especially ones who cut into their profits. So think of them as, if these are all mafia groups, this is a side group that is way more ambitious and terrible than the regular
it also
mafia.
Seems, well, we'll get into House Drez, but it seems like they share a lot of commonality with House Drez.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I haven't looked too much into this stuff. So I'm sure we tried to have Aramithius on the show today from Written in Uncertainty. He always
that would have been great. But
yeah,
time zones.
He loves this stuff. Like, this is his bailiwick. Oh, that's a good word. I'm sure he would have things to say about them. I'm not going to talk too much on that until I research it some more. So then we have House Telvanni. So in general, the Telvanni did not interact with the other houses or guilds, nor did they have many enemies save for the abolitionists and the Imperial Mages Guild. However, the Telvanni themselves were universally disliked or disapproved of by all the other factions found in Vardenfell as late as the Third Era 427. On the other hand, the Telvanni did not have the usual hatred of vampires that most other factions held. Their lords and mouths were willing to speak to vampires. Wizards did not fear vampires nearly as much as other folk did. House Telvanni they are basically if Redoran are the warrior group, Telvanni's the mage group. And that's part of why they didn't like the Imperial Mages Guild, is because they're kind of stepping on each other's toes.
Yes, and I could also understand them not really having much fear over vampires, as they're really impressive wizards. So like extra, something outside the norm to them is probably something they deal with on a semi-regular basis anyways, being that they, for example, live in giant mushrooms.
Yes, they live in giant mushrooms.
The weird is part of their thing. So what might be a bit scary and otherworldly to normal denizens might not be so much when you're dealing in the transmundane and the weird stuff already.
Right. Now, the Telvanni are known for living in the easternmost side of Morrowind, up on the peninsula that we were talking about, where places like Necron are, and this is also known as the Telvanni Peninsula. This is the rumored location where some people feel like they've pulled some lines out of the most recent Elder Scrolls Online updates, and ZeniMax has this habit of hinting at where things are going to go in the future by dropping just little lines of dialogue where somebody says, "Oh, I hear this part of the world is a nice place to visit these days," and then sure enough, the next expansion goes there, and we're like, "Oh, they hinted at it. We totally missed that."
They definitely breadcrumb mechanics throughout the game as well as storyline, which is interesting because they give you enough that makes speculation fun, and also it can amount to something,
right? But it's also there's also
speculation,
plausible deniability, right? Like correct, if it ends up not being there, we could just be like, oh well, we missed the other line where it said this was a cool place,
exactly.
And that was where they ended up going.
It's hard to see going forward, whereas 2020 hindsight stuff, it's like, oh yeah, obviously it was this. So I'll be curious. I haven't looked into it as I'm currently working through the final part of it myself. Not that we're going to spoil anything for the most recent stuff in Elder Scrolls Online, but I haven't seen anything that necessarily led me in that direction. I just really would like that, so I'm totally on board with the idea.
Yeah, no, I think it would be cool too. I think a lot of people would be on board with it. One of the cool reasons why it would be so cool is they have these houses, like you mentioned, that are in these giant mushrooms. The aesthetic of House Telvanni in general is very interesting. So, for example, their armor and the clothing that they make, they've got these like cool looking robes, but then the helmets almost look like mushroom shaped helmets. Also, it's a very striking kind of motif to a lot of their stuff. They have a
really organic motif to most of their stuff.
Yeah.
Their lamps, that's like the thing that I always find very cool about their aesthetic. Their lamps, their lanterns, how they actually light their houses and stuff like that. They almost look like glowing pods growing out of the stuff, which, I mean, they are fungal houses and stuff like that in the game. So it's just it's really cool that a lot of their stuff holds on to that nature-y vibe, but in a different way than like the Bosmer, for example.
Right. I feel like the Telvanni stuff is some of the most alien looking. This is one of the things a lot of people talk about with Morrowind, is it feels like you're going to this alien land, right?
Without a doubt. And it feels a little more, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but whereas the Bosmer have a big thing where it feels like they're kind of one with nature in the game, I always feel that the Telvanni feel more like they're subjugating it a little more, just the way their stuff is.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, they're not just like utilizing nature and living with it.
It's like, no, we need you to do this, so we're gonna just help you do this for us.
Yeah, yeah, that I could see that as well. So yeah, when you think Telvanni, think powerful mages who are subjugating the world around them and are kind of separatists in a way compared to the other houses. Then we have Indoril. House Indoril is or unorthodox, or I'm sorry, were orthodox and conservative supporters of the Tribunal Temple during its millennia long reign over Morrowind. So Tribunal Temple, remember the Tribunal, Vivek, Amalexia, Sothasil, claiming kinship with the Tribunal themselves and boasting such ancient heroes as the Hortator.
I always say Hortator.
I so much.
Hortator.
I want to say Hortator. I have to struggle not to. Induril Nerevar. So Induril Nerevar, House Induril. Nerevar comes up a lot in the stories and events. House Induril has dominated temple authorities since time immemorial. Man, words are hard today. They have always held prominent positions within the temple hierarchy, and throughout history, the fates of House Induril and the temple have been closely linked. Through the temple, House Induril's influence was felt across Morrowind, even beyond their traditional borders. So, any thoughts on them, Lotus?
So it's just, I don't know. They're definitely, the thing with them is they have some, as we're discussing in chat there, they're like a new level of being like superior. Their aesthetic is a little divisive, but I feel that there's such a unique aspect to the series. And one of the things before we get too far away from them, I did want to bring up is in the Morrowind expansion in ESO, when you deal with House Telvanni, I believe her name is Sun and Shadow. Maybe it's a Argonian tale that happens over in that area. They have a really unique hierarchy where they're fine with slavery. Like that's their thing.
You're talking about Induril here or Telvanni.
I'm sorry. I before we get to Induril, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I was still sticking with the Telvanni stuff.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Induril is not so much
confused.
with the slaving. Sorry.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
What was I going to say? I mentioned it before we got too far from Telvanni is what it was. The thing I find about them is they're so unique. And the reason I bring that up now is Induril seems like you've got this situation where, at least to me, because theoretically in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, you have your Induril Nerevar reborn, theoretically. Like, that's how it goes out, and you're the Nerevarine. It always struck me as they were like the most neutral of all of these people, because
they're kind of at the center.
Yes, that's actually, maybe that's a little better than neutral. They're kind of in the middle.
I get what you're saying. Like they're not extreme on the spectrum. They're kind of
right. So
yes.
This is what, so like you've got Telvanni, which I was just talking about, very unique, very weird. They have like these bizarre hierarchies where you can go from being a slave to being like one of the head people in the guild, and it's actually like pretty open to you'd think people who are in favor of slavery would not want diversity, and they seem to think less of other races very easily, but at the same time, when you can prove your worth, they seem to think that's above all else.
Well, yeah, there's power in that.
Yes.
So they value power, and somebody who can prove that they are powerful and valuable. Right. Therefore, they rise through the ranks.
Yes.
Anyone who is not valuable stays at the absolute bottom. So that's why that makes sense. Right.
And then, we had talked about Redoran, where they're just like, it's strength, it's power. That's their that's their claim to fame. This Induril, to me, at least in the grand scheme of things, especially playing through the Morrowind things, always struck me as kind of just like you said, it's like the middle point in the others. We're going to get into the other houses as well, and it'll make more sense. But like, they just struck me as kind of like the, you know what we'll do. We had mentioned the two-party system in the United States, for example. There's the Democrats or Republicans. This situation strikes me as like, I'm an independent. Like they're just kind of yeah, okay. Like you all have your points,
guys. Just if I disagree with you, it doesn't mean I'm on the other side. I'm just moderate. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because I disagree with your point doesn't mean I think the whole other opposite side of this is the answer. I'm a moderate.
Right. So
Right.
that's what has always struck me about House Indral. It's just always been that.
Yeah, I can
which
see
I
that.
guess,
I can see
given
that.
the choice of any character I had to play, I'm glad that it was that house.
Yeah, and well, they also seem they're in connection with the Tribunal Temple, and the Tribunal Temple. Once they are in power, once the Tribunal is in power, there's a sense of let's just keep this the status quo, right? Like we're here, we are now your gods, and nothing else needs to change. Let's not go too extreme here, guys. We'll stay in power. How about that? Right?
Yeah.
Like there's that feeling of like, you keep doing your things, but let's not be too extreme about that.
Right. You all explain your point of view, and we'll just keep everything kind of tempered in the middle here.
It'll be fine. We're going to take care of everyone. So that big old rock in the sky, don't worry about it. I got that.
It's fine. Yeah,
everything's
it's like, don't worry. It's still fine. Like everything's still good.
Right. Don't lose faith in us. We're still here. We're still as powerful, or if not more powerful than you think we are. And everything's going to be fine. Right. And they're kind of in part of that. They're kind of the ones who are just like, yeah, well, okay. Yeah, everything's fine. Everyone just chill out.
Yeah, exactly. That's just always the vibe they've set up, which I guess is sort of me a lot of the time, where I'm just like, I don't know. It takes a lot to get me to be too extreme with stuff. So it's just like, yeah, that seems good. Just right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Let's listen to all the sides, which can be pretty varied when it gets to the Morrowind Great Houses. We'll just stay nice and tempered in the middle.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's move on from them. Uh-oh. Where'd my camera go? My camera now I'm back.
You're a literal robot.
Weird. All right, so here, let's move on to the fourth of the main houses, House Dress. So House Dress has a mainly rural but still very wealthy agrarian agricultural society, maintaining vast salt rice plantations on the plains and marshes surrounding Tyr. The Dres were also the Dunmer who shipped the majority of slaves to the other great houses. Their symbol is chains.
Yeah. Okay. So this is definitely one of the rougher houses.
Yes. It goes on. Keeping thousands of captives, mostly Argonians and Khajiit, in their, and did I say Khajiit? In their infamous slave pens of Tyr and the surrounding plantations. The Dres are also known among the great houses for maintaining a persistent tradition of Daedra worship and ancestor reverence. So they're a little at odds with the Tribunal.
Yeah, a little more into the old ways, a little more connection to like the Ashlander style of living.
Right.
And then very high superiority to other races in their minds.
Yes. It goes on. Let me just finish this off. Their staunch support of unity between the great houses and their emphasis of inter-house relations and the improvement of Dunmeri society as a whole. So if everybody's getting along and you're supplying everyone slaves, then you make more money off of the slave trade.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone get along. We're all just going to like chill out here. We got plenty of slaves for sale. Everyone's working their fields, right? And, you know, where everything's good. Okay, cool. Buy some more slaves from us. It's kind of the feeling I get from them.
Yes, very much so. And I feel like in terms of them, they always have struck me as one of the yes, they're a great house. But it seems like they always have. They're kind of economically a little more of a one-trick pony, where it's just like, okay, we're not going to do our own field work, and our main source of income is basically selling slaves. So, like the big thing with them seems to, you know, obviously the thing they're most well known for, especially with their, you mentioned their house sigil of like being literal chains. Right. Slavery is like designed around their culture, but as a side effect, they always struck me as one of the weaker houses trying to stay relevant with the houses that are a little more self-sufficient.
Yeah, like, there's also that like, okay, we're not strong like the Redoran, we're not powerful mages like the Telvanni, but
Yeah, we haven't gotten Halalu's strength yet either.
Right. We're good at
They don't have the commanding
business.
Presence of Indral.
We
It's
can
just
sell
kinda,
you
we're
some
here.
slaves.
Right, we can sell you stuff.
We found
to
the thing
make
that we're
your
good at.
house better. Like your life will be easier if you let us stick around, type of thing.
Right. Right. Oh man, that's dark.
Which is really, really weird.
It's kind of skeezy.
Yeah, it's definitely, they're definitely a bit of a cringe house for the most part. But the thing is, it's just like they, as a result of some of the more extremist views and the fact that they like the idea of like keeping the houses happy, it seems more like a necessity than something that, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, like you said, as long as we can keep supplying you with stuff like slaves and stuff like that, all will be good. If people don't like them, they're basically like, their outside commerce does not go to people outside the other great houses for the most part.
Right. Well, it's
So
like
they
a free
need
market.
to be friends.
It's like a free market situation, right? Like,
Right.
if there's demand for something, the market's going to find a way to fulfill it. So in these cultures, there's demand for slaves. House Drez are the ones who are able to fulfill it the best. And it also makes sense because they're agricultural and agrarian. The slaves are their workhorse. That is the machine that keeps their economy going.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just makes sense. Like, there's demand for something, and because society permits it, therefore this exists. So that's basically House Drez. Now let's talk about the last one. This is the fifth house, and the one that we know the least about. House Sadras is one of the 5 houses, right? At the beginning of the 4th era, following the Oblivion Crisis, of the 3rd era, 433, and the eruption of Red Mountain in the 4th era, 5, House Hlalu was stripped of its great house status and removed from the Grand Council of Morrowind. House Sadras, whose prior status and holdings are unknown, was selected to fill the seat on the council. So this is the newest of the great houses because Hlalu was removed.
Right.
They got kicked out, and Sadras was somebody that was out there. I mean, they were a house that was out there, but they just didn't show up too much in any of the other games so far, and so we just don't know that much about them.
Right. They're becoming great as opposed to
like next in line. All right, here you go. What you guys are about yet? We don't really know because we haven't had a game to find out.
Exactly. They're new to the table.
Right. So that means that there are some former great houses like Hlalu and Dagoth, and then there are some historic houses which we can talk about as well. But we're going to save those for after the break because we need to go thank our patrons. So we'll be right back.
This is Hamis Morak, Dragonborn, and you are educating yourself to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
All right, here we are in the middle of the show. This is where we get to thank our patrons, and chat is just hamming it up about slave trade and how weird it would be when people jump into the stream and hear us talking about the economics and merits of slave trade.
Yeah. Like I said, this is definitely a little more of the awkward sections of the lore.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. Imagine listening to this at work and then all of a sudden pulling your headphones out and it gets real loud, and it all and like we're really talking about
context thing.
Yeah, well, and everyone just looks at you like, "What are you listening to?"
Right, and even Rob was like, "Someone clip the way I said House Drez great, and then just stop right after the slave." So it's wildly out of context.
That sounds.
It's like, a lot of this is pretty dicey lore where it's just like it's not all fun in this world. It's unfortunately got some really seedy aspects to it, and this is a big one.
It's true. But one of the not seedy aspects about our world is that we're supported by you guys, our patrons, and we get to thank our patrons for being here and for signing up. So we have some new ones that have signed up in the last week. That includes Ian H. and Van Hoffenheimer. I hope that's your actual last name because that's awesome. Gunnar M., Sam, and Annie E, and just moments before we started the stream today, Kelsey L. Welcome to the Patreon. Thank you for being here and for all of your support. And if you're interested in checking out what we have on the Patreon, which includes all sorts of stuff, ad-free episodes, t-shirts, joining us on future episodes of the show, all sorts of fun things. Go to patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast and check that out. Also, we have to shout out our tier 5 Daedric princes, Evelyn R., Kira C., and Noodle Al Dente. Evelyn is one of our newest Daedric princes. Evelyn, you should tell us which Daedric prince you are. Which one are you mantling? This will be awesome. So thank you so much to everybody. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. We also have a new review that came in. This is from DSWeb2312 at 3 @ signs at the end, from Great Britain, who writes, "Get lost in the world of Elder Scrolls. I have listened to this podcast consecutively for the past 4 weeks while at work, and it has made time fly by. Not only is it a wonder to hear the lore behind the games I love, but also engaging listening to Tom and Lotus talk about their own experiences in the world of Tamriel. Many thanks go out to you two and the time and effort you have spent on not only the quality of your podcast, but the quantity you provide. Many thanks, Dan Thorondor. Thorondor?
I like Thorondor.
Thorondor. Yeah, well, I'm sure we mispronounced that, but thank you, Dan.
I'm sure we both mispronounced it, yeah.
Yeah, that's
but I still appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody who listens. We got the Spotify year in review stuff for, like, everybody gets their own little thing about, like, these are the songs you listen to the most this year and all of that.
Yep.
But as a creator, you get one as well, and holy moly, guys, you guys have been sharing this show a lot. Lots of new listeners. People who do listen to the show listen to a lot of it. We showed up in the top podcast list of thousands of you. Mm-hmm. Thousands of people. We're in your like top 5 podcasts. So if you have your little thing and you want to share your image with us, please feel free to share it on Twitter or post it in the Discord and be like, hey, look, you're one of my top shows. We love seeing that. That would be awesome. So thank you to everybody for listening and for another awesome year of this show. So just wanted to say that before we get back into the Houses of Morrowind. So why don't we get back to it?
You're listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, dear child of cities. That is why the Night Mother loves you.
All right, here we are. We're back. And now we get to talk about House Hlaalu. Hlaalu. Hlaalu.
Hlaalu.
That's a good word, huh?
It is.
So, according to the Great Houses of Morrowind, as a result of its close relationship with the Imperial administration, House Hlaalu has emerged as politically and economically dominant among the Great Houses of Vardenfell and Morrowind. Hlaalu welcomes Imperial culture and law, Imperial legions and bureaucracy, and Imperial freedom of trade and religion. All of that should sound very like red flags.
Super down with the Empire.
That sounds like red flags if you were a regular old Dunmer just doing your daily stuff and you're like, wait, what?
They are currently being appropriated by the Empire and they are all over it.
Right. And remember, Great Houses of Morrowind is one of those books that was part of the game Morrowind. So this is filling people in on the way the world is at that time in history. It goes on a little bit and says, Hlaalu still honors the old Dunmer ways, the ancestors, the temple, and the noble houses, but has readily adapted to the rapid pace of change and progress in the Imperial provinces. So, yeah. So these guys used to be on top.
We love the old ways, but also we'll throw that stuff in the trash if it makes us $1.
Yeah. And well, speaking of dollars, the sign of House Hlaalu, the symbol, is the scales. And the scales are typically used in symbols of trade. We see it in the United States with like balancing justice and justice being blind, that whole symbol. But typically the scales are more of a trade symbol. You put two things, you balance them, you make the trade.
Yeah, this is where you can kind of have like, for an old wrestling reference, I was going to say, this is where the $1 Million Man thing of him just saying money, 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 money comes in, because this is all I picture with them. There's actually a deck in Tales of Tribute in ESO, known as, it's the Hlaalu deck, and
lots of gold coins.
All about gold generation. Yeah. Like that's the play style of the deck, is to get currency to buy other cards to help you win the game and things like that. So it's like they are the economic powerhouse, and if there's insider trading going on or whatever, that's on them. They're all about that life. Just whatever you can do to make a buck to further your further your power and further your alliance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They bet big on the Imperials. So
yeah, because they thought the Imperials are going to be a good way to make a buck.
Right.
So the summary here says the house was largely concerned with business and diplomacy, seeking to strengthen ties with at times unconventional allies such as the Empire. And although profit was often a primary objective, traditional Hlaalu practice recognized the value of a good reputation over money. This was their great strength. They were fast talkers and intelligent traders, and their great liability. Most Hlaalu were bribable, either with gold or with other favors, and their leaders are no exception. House Hlaalu retainers were also masters of thievery, sneaking, lockpicking, blackmailing, and backstabbing, both literal and metaphorical. While some counselors, they're basically Game of Thrones, the house, right?
Yeah.
While some counselors were honest and fair, others were more underhanded and corrupt. However, House Hlaalu's most distinguishing characteristic was its willingness to live in harmony with the other races, setting it apart from the other occasionally xenophobic Dunmer great houses. So we mentioned this with Dres, this idea that their main income source was the slave trade, and how everybody getting along meant that their slave trade would go well. They could make business with other houses, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you dial that up to like 11, now we have House Hlaalu, because basically their business is everything else, and keeping everything moving between the houses was of great importance to them.
Right. And the thing with, I guess one of the more, what we would assume, or at least I would consider probably a more redeeming quality that could be there type of thing, is the benefit of the fact that they seem a little more willing to work with anybody. Granted, the reason they're willing to work with anybody is so that they can make a buck and get ahead. But at the same time, you had mentioned the xenophobia that's like pretty prevalent, not only in just a lot of the great houses, but a lot of the, Dunmerry people. They're definitely a little more accepting of outsiders, just straight up, like, fine, doesn't matter who you are, as long as you, like, everybody's septums are gold, like, so just give them here. I don't care about your background, I don't care about any of that stuff. But the problem is, when that is your main focus, that's a huge problem with them, because again, when you're constantly backstabbing those in your own group for gaining power, that's a little rough. Because you don't know who you can actually trust. And from the political stance, man, you're just making deals, and how much are you actually, like, how much can anyone really take you at your word at that point? Right.
So while things were going well, they were going pretty well, because they were upwardly mobile, and they were sophisticated in the way they dealt with other groups, and they were stabbing people in the back and all that stuff. But when things start to go bad, starting with like the Oblivion Crisis and the Empire pulling out their protection of Morrowind in order to defend Cyrodiil,
right?
All of a sudden, House Hlaalu's, everyone's looking at them like, wait a minute, I thought you said the Empire was going to help us.
Yeah,
like, what's the deal with this?
Okay, so why were we wasting our time with this? Clearly, outsiders are bad. Where it's like, no.
Why did we trust you? Yeah,
correct.
And then the the eruption of Red Mountain, basically an explosion, and then again, the Imperials don't help out, and the people suffer. And so now they look at House Hlaalu again a second time. They're like, yeah, why did we follow you? This is terrible. And that all leads to their expulsion and the movement of them out of the great houses and House Sadras into the great houses.
Yeah, they get bumped down to B tier.
They get bumped out. Yep. So I guess that's the thing, is if you if you bet too big on the wrong thing, you don't get to stay in one of the major houses.
Yeah, it's big. You can just think of them as like a big stock market gamble from that house, where it's just like, all right, we're going all in on this. Mm-hmm. Oh, it didn't work out. We are totally in trouble.
Yep. Yeah. Gats in chat says Hlaalu is interesting because they officially oppose slavery, but many of them are in the Kimona Tong, which deals in slavery. Yeah, that whole working both sides of the thing.
Again, a lot of it's speaking, not so much actions to stuff, which is Again, hard to distinguish where actual lines are with a lot of these things, but it's the same thing with any political party.
I mean, it feels like politics
as opposed to what you do. That's politics.
It's totally politics. You say the thing that people want to hear, and then you totally do the opposite thing.
Yeah,
like most people in politics are doing that.
They made a really believable set of houses.
Yeah, on some level. Yeah. So the other former major house is House Dagoth. And this is interesting. Of course, this plays into Dagoth and the events of the game Morrowind. House Dagoth, also called the Sixth House, Shadow House, Sleeping House, Lost House, or Tribe Unmourned, or the Unmourned House, is the defunct sixth great house of the Chimer, led by Vorin Dagoth, later known as Dagoth-Ur. All records of the house's existence were destroyed following the Battle of Red Mountain, and its members were either killed or absorbed into the remaining houses. This is one of the few times where people can transition from one house to another, is when a house is just gone. It basically falls apart. Yeah,
and a little more of that, I always got the impression that a lot of it was like people who really weren't in a situation like children or stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, we don't need to necessarily kill everybody here. We can just scoop them in, and now you're part of this house, and we're going to just pretend that didn't happen.
Adopt them into our family. They grow up as one of us. They never know any different. Right. We're talking that this group was powerful before the Battle of Red Mountain. This is before the Tribunal. This is hundreds or thousands of years before so much of what else is going on. And then we have the whole thing with Dagoth-Ur, and he goes into hiding, and then of course he comes back out of hiding, and then you have the events of the game Morrowind, where he tries to reconstruct the New Medium in order to take over the Dunmer, and yada yada yada. So I'm sure we've talked about this on a few different occasions, and we can get more into the story of that in the future. But they used to be a great house, and they're just not. The events of the Battle of Red Mountain led to their downfall. So
yeah, they have a really creepy vibe to them too, which is interesting. Other than just their banner and stuff like that, it's like a ladybug. It's a beetle. It looks like a ladybug.
Yes,
it's a beetle, but it looks
a beetle is a ladybug. A ladybug is a type of beetle, but yes.
And they have all these like dark tie-ins type of thing, which is interesting because they seem almost more like a cult at times, more so than just like a great house, which is sort of unique to them.
Yeah, they're very cultish.
Yeah,
I guess every house is somewhere between cult and mafia. That's like the spectrum. So like somewhere on that line somewhere. All right. So now we have the historic houses. We'll get through these pretty quickly. Did you know the Dwemer are a historic house of the Dunmer? Weird, huh?
Yeah.
So little is known of the faction referred to some as House Dwemer. Go back and listen to our Dwemer episode, because we do talk about them. During the time of the First Council, Resdayn was united by the Chimer hero Nerevar and the Dwemer king Dumak. According to some imperial text and tribunal apocrypha meaning not necessarily true or canon, the Dwemer of Resdayn were considered a great house. So at some point in that history, they might have had some say in some political events back in the day. Kind of cool if you think about it. Now, of course, the Dwemer disappear and nobody knows where they went to. And there was the whole Battle of Red Mountain and all that.
A lot of questions around around the Dwemer.
Yeah, but at a time early on, they did act like a part of the Dunmer, or back then it was the Chimer traditional set of houses and all of that. So pretty cool. Then we have House Mora, which is a minor political house of Dunmer that was later absorbed into House Hlaalu in the First Era. Since its founding, House Mora has had a deep-rooted human ancestry in their blood. One of their most esteemed families was the Rotham clan, the royal family of Ebonheart, and ancient retainers of the High Kingship of Morrowind. So we talk about like the Bretons having a mix of Mer and Mannish blood, right? But House Mora probably did too.
Yeah, seems highly likely that it would be a similar situation.
Also interesting to note that the people of like the Daggerfall region, the Bretons, like that group, also known for their ability at commerce.
Yeah, again, very...
And House Hlaalu, which may have brought in House Mora, who had human blood in them,
right.
also
Maybe
good at commerce.
Maybe that's yet another tie-in. I mean,
maybe
logically, I could see the connection being there because that's one of the things.
It's an interesting coincidence if it's not.
Yes. If there's nothing substantial there, I could totally like, okay, I fine. But if there's like an actual connection, it would totally make sense. It would sync up. There's the way that they're politically savvy, their commerce-based style of getting ahead, like it all works. Yeah. So like the fact that
like, is that a mannish trait?
Clicks.
I mean, it seems inherent to all the cultures. You could say that, yes, it's a Moorish trait as well. There's political intrigue. There's good commerce happening in Somerset and other places as well. Like everybody has some of that, right? It's just interesting that the house that happens to have the mannish blood, also part of Hlaalu, who's also known for that. It's kind of this really kind of cool coincidence. Then we end up with House Rathim, Rathim, was an influential family in the city-state of Ebonheart. They were known for being miners of mithril. Some of the most notable Rathim are Taria and Morrowind. Once we got to mithril, once we got to the word mithril, I just saw like Gimli saying mithril. like my brain went Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
but mithril is a thing.
Mithril's not an overly commonly used thing in the series for Elder Scrolls. Like it's there. It's more there in the older games. It's not really mentioned all that much. So it's a little. It definitely is a little more Lord of the Ringsy than.
It feels that way.
Yeah.
And then we have House Solathan. House Solathan is a little-known lineage that died out simultaneously in a monumental battle. That's the actual word, during the time of the Chimer. They have an ancestral tomb in the northern West Gash area near the township of Nisus, I think is how you pronounce that.
Nisus, whatever.
So another one of those like, hey, these people used to be around a long time ago, but we don't know much about them.
Yeah, that was just kind of... again, not that I can really add too much more to them, but it's always kind of funny when it's just like, you are an asterisk in the history of Morrowind. It was like, yeah, we were around, and there was a big battle, and we're just totally done. Like, that was just it. We're just like, ooh, okay, well, that was abrupt.
That kind of stuff, though, makes this stuff feel more real. Because when you're in a place like in the world and you come across like a tomb or something, and you're like, oh, the House Solathan, who is that? They're not one of the ones I've heard of. And you find out like they died off thousands of years ago.
Sure. And I mean, if they weren't this, monumental great house with, thousands and thousands of people in it, even say it's a group of 100 or 1,000 or whatever, but this huge battle happens in their region, it could be enough to just wipe them out. Like, especially if they didn't do well in the situation, there might just not be enough to survive the lineage.
Right. And maybe there were less people around at certain points in history altogether. So even if you were a great house, maybe you only had several dozen members of your house.
Maybe
so a minor house
were notably smaller. Exactly.
Yeah, a minor house may have been only like really 2 or 3 family units. Like you never really know.
Somebody raising their hand. Can I be a great house?
I'm my own great house. Sit down, Sean. Okay.
The house of Sean will not be acknowledged.
Next year, can I be no, Sean? Sit down. Let's move on with the meeting. All right. And then we have House...
All the Seans of the show are like, hey, I want to be a great house. This is crap.
Hey, why don't Tom let me be a great house? I'm sorry. If your name is Sean, you can be a great house. I apologize. So then the last of these minor houses is House Sotha. Sotha was a minor house with holdings in the homestead of Ald Sotha, considered an unremarkable town belonging to an unremarkable family. They're
so unremarkable that they become super important.
Right. The only known members were Sotha Sil, a future member of the tribunal and living god, and his older sister Sotha Nal. It is said that Vivek rescued Sotha Sil, the only surviving member of his house, from Ald Sultha when the town was destroyed by Mehrunes Dagon. And man, we need to talk about these guys, because there's one of those weird stories about like, this is how these two knew each other back when they were kids or whatever.
Right. And there's not a lot to say with Health Sotha, obviously. It is interesting, though, that I guess like for them being so notably small and unimportant, they did have their own town named after them. So like I guess just there were more of them, but none of them really made a difference, I guess, so to speak. And they do specifically mention, obviously, anybody who really is accustomed to the series, especially with the Morrowind lore, is Sotha Sil being important. But one little tidbit that I just love, this is super tangential. I always love bringing it up, and there's very few opportunities where I can bring it up. So, his sister, who he, obviously has like a lot of reverence for, love for. He misses her because, she's gone, and he's like this basically living god. There is a note in the Elder Scrolls Online in the Clockwork City. There's a few things that kind of imply that the factotums that go around in the Clockwork City,
the little robot guys that walk around.
Yeah, the little robot guys.
Oh, they're kind of big, but yes.
Yeah, they are. That was so they're all
pretty
various
tall,
size.
right.
But if you play the game, you'll notice they have this weird, surreal voice that they actually talk, and it's implied that was actually the voice of his sister.
Oh, interesting. And he like worked that into their design.
Some of the stuff they say is sort of unnerving at times.
Yeah.
So it's just like I've always thought that was. They never really explicitly go into too much of it that I ever found, but I just always thought it was a cool thing because there's so few members of that house that have any remembrance in history of the series at all. And theoretically, she might constantly be in the series and we just might not have overtly noticed it.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's pretty weird. Yeah, the Clockwork City stuff is really cool. I'm so glad they took the time to do a DLC area with all that stuff in it because getting to interact with Sotha Sil in the game is really cool, and he's always got like really weird, interesting things to say, and you only get so many moments with him, but each one is pretty unique and interesting. I also think it's interesting how their names are set up like Chinese names, where the house name is first and the individual name is second.
Yes, which I actually think that's kind of cool. I sort of like that, actually. And one thing that actually Rob brought up, I guess we could mention that specifically. Dagon basically just nukes the town. That's why they're deleted. It's not like a civil war or anything. Mehrunes Dagon blows his town up. That's the end of House Sotha.
I don't know that we ever get an explanation of why.
I've never known why, other than just F this place specifically, and just there probably is.
I mean, it shows up in dialogue. It's like a off. It does. So according to this, it's like a one of the dialogue things that just gets mentioned by a character named Tholer Saryoni, who's a dark elf priest in the game Morrowind. And it's one of those where I think he's just kind of explaining what's going on, but. Yeah, that's it's weird and kind of cool at the same time.
Yeah, it's just it's an interesting way of just like deleting that house. It's just like, okay, Daedric intervention and you're all done. Like, all right, that one's there's not much to that house, but it's pretty definitive what happened to that house.
Yeah. I'm looking through it right now, and he's basically saying like, Old Sotha, the Daedric ruins northeast of Vivec City. Vivec rescued Sotha Sil, the only survivor of the minor house Sotha, which barely mentioned here, from the armies of Mehrunes Dagon. It's just like, by the way, they attacked them, and he saved them.
Which I mean. To Rob the Prince's point, Dagon just does that. I mean, sort of. The Daedric Prince of Destruction, like, hey, time to destroy something. Like, it's not even
squish this building over here, this city. It's now gone.
Yeah, it's somebody did something to slight him once and was like, oh, absolutely not. We're blowing you up. Like, so.
Yeah. So that's it. Those are all the known great houses. It doesn't mean others won't come up in some interesting story later on because they disappeared long ago or emerged because we have this other house that, Sadras, which we don't know much about, which seems to just kind of come into prominence. So there might be other houses, just families out there that can move into prominence in the future. So that would be cool too. But that's going to be it for the the overview of all the different houses of Morrowind.
So now we've done the region. We've done an overview of each of the houses.
Yeah, the general history, the houses. We probably need to talk about the tribunal, get into each of those. There's definitely, I mean, we could go deeper into this stuff too. There's lots of layers. This is like an onion.
Yeah, Morrowind lore gets pretty deep and pretty out there.
Yes. So yeah, that's what. Man, what have we opened up, Lotus? Where are we going with all this?
We've opened up a Kirkbridean box.
Oh God, it's true. Well, all of this I feel like is written by Kirkbride, which probably is.
Which most of it is, which is to me, peak Kirkbride. I love how weird some of this stuff gets.
Right.
And the villains make you not like them. And the problem is, very few people are squeaky clean in this society. So it's like it feels gritty and realistic that it's like, oh God, you got to like always watch what's going on. So
yeah. This side of Kirkbride with like the squabbling families, the political intrigue, these groups are powerful in these ways. All of that, very cool. It doesn't get too esoteric, right? Once he starts getting kind of out there, that's when things get like, oh, okay, all right.
We're not getting a
it's
coda.
Cool, but is it cool for the sake of being cool, or is it cool because it works and it's unique and interesting, right?
Sure.
Like, it's like the kid in school who was like, yeah, and check out my new jacket, and we're like, yeah, that's a really cool jacket. Like, you're trying really hard to be cool, rather than like that jacket just fits you, and so it's cool because it fits your personality, right?
Yeah.
You're like, man, look at my new Lamborghini. It's like, yeah, you're working really hard to try to be cool, dude.
Yeah. I get it. You own this.
You get it. You got a lot of money. You bought a Lamborghini. Cool. All right. Well, you got anything going on you want to share before we wrap this up?
So the big thing that I have coming up is Extra Life. It's December 3rd, which from this show is 2 days away from our live recording date. You guys will probably get this over the next day or so. So it'll be right on the brink of the marathon kicking off. Yeah,
this episode goes up on Saturday morning, which means if you're listening to this over the weekend, go check out Lotus's marathon.
Come join us. We'll be kicking everything off at 6 a.m. Eastern time, and I will be going at least until 2 a.m. The following morning. At which point, Arc will be taking over from me and then streaming to continue the marathon. Where Extra Life, I've mentioned it before, is my specific campaign is going to the Boston Children's Hospitals, but it's anybody can do it from the Children's Miracle Network. All of those hospitals are included. All of the proceeds go to the hospitals to help kids in need get the treatment they oftentimes can't afford otherwise. Yeah. So it's a really good cause. We will be marathoning through all sorts of Elder Scrolls stuff. I'll be playing ESO a bunch, but due to popular requests, we will be playing some classics as well. And thanks to Bethesda, ZeniMax, and the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, who we always mention on this show and we're affiliated with on Tales of Tamriel as well, they've all provided so many things for us to be able to give away as we hit milestones throughout the marathon. And all you need to do is hang out with us. If you can't support financially, I totally get it. Like that's fine. But even hanging out with us and sharing this stuff around helps more than a lot of people realize. And obviously any financial donations are super, super great as well. But as we hit milestones, there's all sorts of stuff we'll be giving away to people just hanging out with us in chat, keeping us awake and stuff like that. So really excited and very hopeful that things will go well. We're already off to a ridiculous start where we hit my original goal almost. Oh, wow. And we haven't started yet.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So really, this is just you pleading for people to show up to keep you awake.
Oh, without a doubt. Like I don't even remotely pretend that's not a thing. I tell people a lot that I'm like, yeah, I'm really glad this is entertaining for everybody. You talking to me, make sure I'm not asleep on my keyboard at hour 16 plus nonstop. It's like I start really losing it as it gets later on. And that's why we try to relay it so that we can at least be moderately coherent.
Right.
Whereas
totally.
I've done ones for 24 hours plus before.
That's too much.
And by the end, I literally have been shown VODs. I'm like, I don't remember this.
Right. No,
like, my brain is gone at that
mush.
point. I got nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Rob the Princess says Lotus will be doing a live reading of Coda, right? If Rob the Princess donates $100 to charity, will you do a live reading of Coda?
Yes, I will do a live reading of Coda. I'll need to get the entire... Oh my God, that script is so long.
It might keep you awake, though.
Or put everyone to sleep.
How much money to do a live reading / pantomime reenactment?
Ooh, like a reenactment, like
dramatic
one thing where like the hand is going into your head type of thing.
Right. Yeah, where you can you act it out as you read it. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah. There's some really messed up stuff in there to act out.
There sure is. I wonder how I could cut off my hand.
Oh God.
But yeah,
you should have a stretch goal for that, because that would be amazing.
Hey, again, when people get creative during, like, we haven't got a bunch of stuff planned out for milestones, but oftentimes people will come up with goofy stuff. I mean, we've made reference to the one you did before. Mm-hmm. People will come up with just goofy stuff. It's like, what kind of donation to do this? And you had the one that I always like to joke about, where you're like, yep, you have to play PvP in first person. Yep. And I was like, for $50, I will play PvP for an hour in first person. And we made it about
It's totally worth it, because it's for the kids.
Minutes.
And
and then 10 minutes later, somebody's like, I will give you $100 if you stop doing this.
Everyone suffers. We're all suffering for the kids together. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it was, stuff like that always makes it fun. Hopefully it's entertaining to watch. It's always been a good time. So fingers crossed that this is another great year, and at bare minimum, it'll at least be fun. And we've already raised a bunch, and we haven't even started yet. So yeah,
well, good luck with that. That sounds awesome. I'll make a mental note to pop in and potentially ruin your stream.
Hell yeah!
Awesome. I've got all my normal stuff, all my different shows, which, by the way, are doing awesome. Everybody's tuning into the Lord of the Rings Lorecast. If you're into Fallout, also the Fallout Lorecast. There's a bunch of stuff. The Starfield Lorecast, we're going to be getting that up and going again soon as we start to get more info. Fingers crossed for maybe games. What is it? Gamescom that's coming up. The awards, the Game Awards. That's coming up in a few weeks. Maybe there's often big reveals during that, so maybe we'll get a release date and some more information dropping. So if you're going to be playing Starfield because you love Bethesda games like we do, then that'll be the place to go for info. And then once we get the game out, all the lore and all the background for all the world and all the stuff that we can dig up. So, so go check that out. It's up currently, but there's some old episodes where we're just making crap up, which should be hilarious. I hope.
I think Star Facts are confirmed.
Star Facts. Yeah, go listen to all our Star Facts.
I've listened to that show.
Uh-huh.
I personally stand by your Star Facts, especially the ones that Tooniversal would add.
Yes. That sounds strangely like Star Wars, but I don't know.
Nope.
It's just a coincidence.
Totally unique.
Totally unique. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week on Thursday night. Come join us during the live stream, twitch.tv/robotsradio. And live stream people, thank you for being here. And all of our patrons and everybody who helps us out with the show. We really do appreciate it. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Stay safe out there.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach me on Twitter at robots_radio or Lotus of Doom at Lotus of Doom. Also, you can join us on the Robots Radio Discord channel. You can easily just search Robots Radio Discord on Google or check the description underneath the podcast. Also, this podcast is recorded live every week on Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Robots Radio channels on Twitch, YouTube, and on Facebook. So just search Robots Radio on any of those platforms. Come join us. We'd love to chat with you while we record the show, or before or after. Either way, just come hang out with us. And if you're looking for more information about my shows and the shows on the Robots Radio Network, go to robotsradio.net for all the information about all the shows on the network, including the Robots Radio Rocket Club, where I help both new and existing podcasters to grow their shows, build their audiences, and create the best podcasts they possibly can. All of that at robotsradio.net. We'll see you next time.